Hello everyone, welcome to day 3 of FortiGate Firewall series. Guys, in the last class in day 2, we had discussed how to restore the configuration of FortiGate Firewall, how to take backup of configuration, factory reset and admin password. And in today's class in day 3, we are going to understand basic routing on FortiGate Firewall. We'll also talk about basic firewall policy to allow traffic from one interface to another interface or from one zone to another zone. FortiGate firewall supports zone based policy as well, right? And by default, FortiGate firewall can reach anywhere, but no one can reach anywhere through FortiGate firewall. What it mean? It mean if there is route, then FortiGate firewall can ping these all I subnet, 10 subnet, 20 subnet and 30 subnet, but R1 cannot ping to R2 or R3, right? Because firewall will not allow traffic from one port to another port by default. By default, it will be blocking that traffic, right? So that's why I'm saying no one can reach anywhere through FortiGate firewall by default. This is my scenario. You can see port number 4 is again connected with my management PC, and here is the same subnet. So on port number 4, I will configure one IP address from this subnet for GUI access. Port number 1 is connected with R1, and this is my subnet between FortiGate firewall and R1, 192.168.1.0/24. I will configure .1 on router number 1 and .10 on FortiGate firewall. Similarly, between FortiGate firewall and router 2, this is my subnet. I will configure .10 on FortiGate firewall, .1 on router. Actually, routers are already configured. I am going to show you the configuration of router as well. Between FortiGate firewall and router 3, this is my subnet. Again, I will configure .10 on FortiGate firewall and .1 on router. And for the routing, for the reachability, I will configure one default route on all the router towards FortiGate firewall. You can assume like FortiGate firewall is connected with internet now, right? So all the router will have one default route towards FortiGate firewall, and FortiGate firewall will have one default route towards internet. You know this for the routing. Okay, so if I will talk about the R1 configuration, here you can see my R1 configuration in the notepad, and R1 is already configured. Enable config t f0/0, which is connected with FortiGate firewall, no cert, and IP address 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0. After that, I have created 3 loopback here. Loopback 1, IP address 10.1.1.1. Loopback 2, IP address 10.1.2.1. Loopback 3, IP 10.1.3.1. And then finally, we have one default route towards FortiGate firewall, IP route 0.0.0 on F0/0, and next of IP address is nothing but the IP address on FortiGate firewall on port number 1. Done. Similarly, here is my configuration of R2. I have 3 loopbacks here, and again one default route towards FortiGate firewall, and then R3. And these routers are already configured. Let me access R1 and let me show you the configuration. Okay, I think I lost the configuration. Let me configure these routers first. I will pause the video while configuring IP addresses and default route on the router, and then we'll continue. I'm done with the IP configuration. Let me verify you on router number 1. Check so IP interface brief exclude unassign. Here you can see IP address on F0/0 and IP address on these loopbacks, and so IP route static. There is one default route, and the gateway is 1.10. I will configure this IP address on FortiGate firewall. Similarly, on router number 2 also, let me verify the IP. It is important because I will use same lab in the future class as well. So IP interface brief exclude unassign. Here you can see IP address on physical interface 2.1, and these are my loopbacks, and so IP route static. Here is my default route, and this is the gateway, right? I will configure this IP address on FortiGate firewall. R3, so IP interface brief exclude unassign. IP address on physical interface 3.1, and these are my loopback. So IP route static, here is the default route, and gateway is 3.10. Now let's access the FortiGate firewall, and let me check the IP address on port number 1. Port number 1 should have IP address through DHCP protocol, but DHCP is not running on router number 1, so I will change the mode and will configure the IP address statically. Admin, by default there is no password. I think password is already configured. Admin and admin. Let me check the IP. So system interface and question mark. You can see IP address is not configured on any interface. Let's configure the IP address. First I'm going to configure IP on port number 4 for GUI access. So config system interface and then edit port number 4, and here I am going to say set IP 192.168.241. let's say 20/24, and here I am going to set allow service ping https http telnet ssh, right? This is sufficient. And now so I show system interface and question mark. Now you can see IP address on this interface is this one. Let me ping my laptop IP address from the FortiGate firewall. Execute ping 192.168.241.138 is IP address of my local laptop, and it's reachable. You can see from my local laptop I can ping FortiGate firewall, ping 192.168.241.20, and FortiGate firewall is not reachable. Yes, it's reachable. Now you can see I'm getting reply. Let me open any browser to access it. Opera, and my IP address is 192.168.241.20. I got the access. Username is admin, password is admin. Later, okay, and here I need to configure IP address on interfaces, and let me change the host name as well. You can also change the host name through command, right? Through CLI also you can change the host name. Config, and we can say system global, config system global, and here you can say set host name FortiGate 1 and end. And now if you will refresh your page here, refresh it, you can see the host name is changed to FortiGate 1. Now I need to configure interfaces here. Let me take you to the network, then interface. I'm going to configure these all interfaces one by one. Let's configure port number 1 first. Port number 1 description should be what? Port 1 is connected with router 1. So I am saying R1 simply here, or connected to R1. And what will be the IP address? Physical interface IP address should be manual. Here you can see by default method was DHCP. Manually here I am going to set IP 192.168.1.10/24, and I will allow ping https ssh. That's all. Let me say okay. Rest all things will be on default. Let me configure port number 2 now. On port number 2 is connected with my R2, so I have set the description connected to R2, and the IP type is manual, and IP will be 192.168.2.10/24. I will allow the ping, I will allow the https and ssh, and let me say okay. Let me configure port number 3 now. On port number 3 is connected with R3, so let me set description connected to R3, and IP address will be 192.168.3.10/24. let me allow the ping https ssh and say okay. Done. You can see my interfaces configuration. We are done with the interfaces configuration. Now I can try to ping router from FortiGate firewall. Let me take you to the FortiGate firewall. Here I am going to say execute ping 192.168.1.10. this is my IP address. On IP address able to ping, let me ping 10.1. R1 IP address, you can see I'm able to ping R1. Let me ping R2 2.1. You can see I'm able to ping R2 as well. Let me ping R3. You can see I'm able to ping R3 as well. Now you can verify the routing table here. Get router info routing table all, and you can see in the routing table there are 4 subnet. This is for the management on port number 1. This is the subnet 192.168.1.0/24 connected on port number 1, 2.0 connected on port number 2, and 3.0 is connected on port number 3. Right? Through GUI also you can check the routing table. Go to dashboard and then network, and here you can see the routing table of your router. See, 4 routes are there in your routing table. Done. And now if I will try to ping FortiGate Firewall from router 1, it should work. Let me ping 192 ping 192.168.1.10. I am able to ping FortiGate Firewall. Even I can telnet it. If telnet service is not allow SSH, I can SSH it. And now let me try to ping router 2. See, here I have default route. So IP route static, we have default route, so I can send traffic to router number 2. Let me try to ping R2, ping 192.168.2.1. So you can see ping is not working. Ping is not working. Why ping is not working? Because of policy. If I will take you to the FortiGate Firewall, let's close the dashboard tab and let me open the security tab. Not security profile, policy and object. If I will show you the firewall policy, you can see the firewall policy here. See, there is one policy by default, implicit, and the action of this policy is deny. Right? Source any, destination any. If source is any, if any traffic coming from anywhere, going anywhere, schedule any time, service any, action deny, discard it. Right? Even you can enable the log, you can change the action here, but we cannot make this action allow. Okay, and here we can enable the log IPv4 violation traffic. Let me enable the log, say okay, and now if you will check the log, when router 1 is pinging to router 2, you will see firewall is dropping the traffic. Go to log and report firewall forward traffic. And now if I am going to ping again router 2 from router number 1, you can see ping is not working, and you can see the traffic, it is getting dropped. Source was 192.168.1.1, destination was 192.168.2.1, and based on policy it has dropped the packet. All 4 packet got dropped. Why? Because of default policy, default behavior of FortiGate Firewall. By default, any source going to any destination at any time for any service is denied. Now firewall can reach anywhere, but no one can reach anywhere through firewall. Through firewall no one can go anywhere. So in the log we have verified that firewall is blocking the traffic, dropping the traffic. Now I want to allow traffic from port number 1 to port number 2. Let's suppose I want to allow traffic from port number 1 to port number 2. So we have to create one policy to allow traffic here, right? So let's create one policy on firewall. Go to again policy section, policy and object, firewall policy. Now I am getting firewall policy. See one policy there which is implicit. Let me create one new. So click on create new policy, define the name of your policy. Name is, let's say, port 1 to port 2. I said traffic which is coming from port 1 to port 2. This is my name only, right? Now I will define the incoming interface. If incoming interface is port number 1 R1. If outgoing interface is port number 2 R2. If source is any all, destination is also any all, then schedule always anytime, service all, any service, and action accept it, and inspect mode is flow based, or you can set the proxy based also. We'll talk about this later. Is NAT required? No, NAT is not required. Let me disable the NAT. And log allow traffic, keep your log on, and let me save it. After configuring this policy, see what this policy is saying. Policy is saying name of policy is port 1 to port 2, source all, destination all, right? If traffic is coming from anywhere, going anywhere, schedule always means anytime, service any, action accept, right? And in this policy, what was the incoming interface? Incoming interface was port 1, outgoing interface was port 2, right? So when firewall will receive traffic on port 1 which is going to port 2, now it will allow. Now you can see hit count is 0 here. There is no any hit. Let me say okay, and now I am going to try to ping R2 from R1. If now I will try to ping R2 from R1, you can see ping is working now. I got the reply. Success rate is 100%. Again, let me take you to the firewall. Let's open this policy, and now you can see the hit is 1 over here. Even in the log, you can check your traffic. Go to logs and report. Click on forwarding traffic, and here it is. No, it will only show the drop packet here. Forward traffic. Let me send the ICMP packet again, or repeat count. I am saying 100, and here we are getting drop traffic only. The packet dropped by firewall, but now ping is working. Let me close it, and here see, now I have to create one more policy to allow traffic from port 1 to port 3, right? Because R1 can ping to R2, but it can still not ping to R3. Go to R1 and check ping 192.168.3.1. Again, ping is not working. Even you cannot ping R1 from R2 because you have created policy to allow traffic from port 1 to port 2, not from port 2 to port 1. So even from router number 2, if you will ping router 1, ping will not work. Ping 192.168.1.1, you can see ping is not working. So I have to create one more policy to allow traffic from port 2 to port 1. Let me create one more policy here. Go to policy, then firewall policy, new policy, create policy, name. This time I am saying port 2 to port 1. Incoming interface, this time I am saying incoming interface is port 2, outgoing interface port 1, source all, any, destination all, any, schedule any time. You can also define the time, like see, sometime you will have requirement to create policy so that users or employees cannot access the social media platform during the office hour for particular time, right? So time based policy, we'll see these all things later. Right now the schedule is always, service is again all, and action is accept, log is on, NAT is not required. Let me disable it. And let me say okay. Packet capturing, okay. For now just I am disabling it as well. Let's say okay here. And now if you will ping router 1 from router 2, so yes, router 1 from router 2, then now ping will work, and you can see ping is working because my policy is allowing the traffic from port 2 to port 1. You can check this one, you can check the hit, there is 2 hit, right? Similarly, we need to create one policy to allow traffic from port 1 to port 3, right, to forward traffic from router 1 to router 3. Let me create one policy here. Name of policy port 1 to port 3. If you are thinking powerful, this is going to be complicated, then I will show you the another ways as well, right? But first understand, all I am creating all policies, individual policy to allow traffic between two ports, right? Later we can define the port in John as well, or we can create policy, single policy to allow these all traffic. I can say source port and see incoming port, I can say any as well, but right now I don't have any option for that. Now I am creating one policy to allow traffic from incoming interface port 1 and outgoing interface is port 3. Right now we are only able to select single port. Okay, don't worry, I will show you the multiple options here. Source, again I am saying any. Destination, again I am saying any. Schedule, any. Service, any. All. Action, accept. NAT, not required, and okay. Now R1 can ping R3 as well. Go to R1 and check connectivity, see ping is working now. Similarly, I need to get one policy to allow traffic from R3 to R1, means port 3 to port 1. Let me create one more policy here. Name port 3 to port 1. Source port number 3. Incoming interface port number 3. Outgoing interface port number 1. Source, again any. All. Destination any. Schedule any. Service any. Action, accept, and NAT not required. Okay. Now R3 can also ping R1. Go to R3 and ping R1. Ping 192.168.1.1. See ping is working. Now I need to allow communication from router 3 to router 2. I need to create one policy to allow traffic from port 3 to port 2 and one policy to allow traffic from port 2 to port 3. Let me create two more new policy here. Port 3 to port 2. Incoming interface port number 3. Outgoing interface port number 2. Source any. Destination any. All. Schedule always. Service any. Action accept. NAT disable. Okay. Now I need one more policy to allow traffic from port number 2 to port number 3. Port 2 to port 3. And before creating it, now we can try to ping router 2 from router 3. Ping 192.168.2.1. you can see ping is working, but from router number 2 you cannot ping router 3 3.1. this ping is not working, right? So after this policy, this ping will also work from port number 2 to port number 3. Source any. Source, sorry, destination any. Schedule always. Service all. Action accept. Disable the NAT and say okay. And now you can check your connectivity from router 2 to router 3. Now you can see we have created the policy to allow traffic between all these ports. Now can these LAN users communicate? Can 10 communicate with 20? Again no. If I will take you to R1 and if I am going to say ping 20.1.1 and source 10.1.1, ping will not work. Why ping is not working? Because when 10.1 is going to ping 20.1, what will happen? Source IP 10.1.1, destination IP 20.1.1. router 1 is going to compare destination with their routing table, so IP route, and in the routing table there is one default route. It will forward the traffic to FortiGate Firewall. When FortiGate Firewall will receive the traffic, it will check the policy in the policy we are allowing the traffic, but firewall don't have route. If you will check the routing table of FortiGate Firewall, you will not find any route here, admin, and so not so get router info routing table all, and you can see route is not available for destination 20.1.1.1, so FortiGate Firewall will discard the traffic. Similarly here you can also verify it through GUI. Go to network section, dashboard, then go to network and check your routing table. In the routing table you can see route is not there. So now we need to configure a static route on FortiGate Firewall. We can configure dynamic routing protocol as well, but now I am going to create a static route. So here I will take you to the network section again, network, and in the network section you can see the routing, a static route. Let me add one new static route here. You can see we don't have any static route. So if I am going to add new static route, click on new subnet. Subnet is 0.0.0.0/0. The gateway IP address, not 0.0.0, it should be 10.1.0.0/16. What should be the gateway IP address? Gateway IP address will be 192.168.1.1 R1 IP address. You can see for 10 subnet, right? Here in my this static route, all the 10 subnet will match. Done. After that, the interface, on which interface? On port number 1, automatically it has sensed. What should be the AD value? 10. Do you want to configure any comments? No. Status enable, let me say okay. Similarly I need to create one more static route here. For which subnet? For 20.1.0.0/16. Gateway IP address 192.168.2.1. On which interface? On port number 2. AD value 10. Let me say okay. Let me create one more static route here. Subnet 30.1.0.0/16. Gateway IP address 192.168.3.1. Interface port number 3. AD value 10. Say okay. Now if you will check the routing table of your router, here go to network and routing table. So now you can see in the routing table 7 routes are there, right? How many static routes are there? You can verify it. The green one is connected routes and this one is the static route. How many static routes are there? Okay, and you can see the routing table 192.168. These are the connected routes and these are the static route. Here is the gateway IP address 10.1.0.0/16. This is the gateway for this is the gateway for this is the gateway. And now I can check end-to-end connectivity, means from router number 1. Now if I am going to ping 20.1.1.1 and source 10.1.1, ping should work, and you can see ping is working now, right? Similarly I can ping 30.1.1.1 and source 10.1.1.1. see ping is working now, right? In the policy you can also define the subnet, that only this subnet should be allowed from port number 1 to port number 2. So this is your basic routing configuration and basic policy configuration. Today we have just configured the basic policy. Now if I am going to delete this policy, go to policy and I am going to say firewall policy and delete it. Delete policy. Okay, delete policy. Okay, delete policy. Delete policy. I'm going to delete this policy as well. Again my firewall will not allow any traffic from router 1 to router 2 or router 3. You can see implicit deny policy is there only, right? And again if you will check the connectivity, you can try to ping and you can see ping is again not working. Now I am going to allow all the traffic through single policy. How we can do this? Through single policy. See, again let me click on create policy and name is, let's say, allow all, allow all. But here in the incoming interface we are not able to select multiple interface, you can see. So just cancel it for a moment and go to cancel it and go to the system section. Under system section, here you will find phys feature visibility option, feature visibility option, and here you can enable the multiple interface policy. Somewhere you will find that multiple interface policy, just enable it, say apply, and now go to your policy section and then firewall policy, and now try to create the policy here. Now you should be able to select multiple interface. Here I am saying allow all, and now interface, which interface? Incoming interface, whether it is port 1 or port 2 or port 3. Outgoing interface, whether it is port 1, port 2 or port 3. I'm not selecting port number 4. Port number 4 is connected with management interface. So now you can see my incoming interfaces are 3. Outgoing interfaces are also 3. Source, again I am saying any. You can create the address as well here. All. Destination, again all. Schedule, all base and service, all. Action, except disable the NAT and say OK. Now this single policy will allow all the communication. You can go and verify. NAT disable, note inspect, OK. Now go to router number 1 again and check connectivity, and now you can see again ping is working. So this time we have single policy which is allowing traffic between all these ports, right? So hope guys this is clear, the basic routing and basic firewall policy, FortiGate firewall policy. If you have learned something from the video, please hit on like button and don't forget to share your feedback. This is day 3 and today we have just discussed the basic routing and basic firewall policy. Hope it is clear. Thank you for watching. That's all for today. We'll meet soon in the next video. Till then, stay safe. Bye bye. That's all for today.